Dreams have a way of dribbling through life's hardest courts. In a small apartment above Mel's diner, 14-year-old Marcus Martinez practices his jump shot every morning at 4:30 a.m., while his mother Sarah counts tips at the kitchen table. She works 3 jobs to keep his basketball dreams alive, missing games, but never missing payments for his team fees. What Sarah doesn't know is that her son's crumpled letter, the one she found in the trash, addressed to LeBron James, is about to change their lives forever. But first, there's another morning rush to survive. Another day of juggling work and dreams, and another reminder of why some shots are worth taking, no matter the odds. The buzz of Sarah Martinez's alarm cut through the darkness at 4:30 a.m. Her hand reached out, fumbling for the phone on her nightstand. Just 5 more minutes, she thought. But Sarah knew better. In this house, every minute counted. She pushed herself up, her muscles aching from yesterday's double shift at the diner. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet as she made her way to Marcus's room. Her 14-year-old son was already up, the soft thump-thump of a basketball echoing through their small apartment. "Morning, Mom." Marcus's voice carried from the living room, where he practiced his ball-handling drills. The furniture was pushed against the walls, creating a tiny practice space between the worn couch and the TV stand. "Morning, baby." Sarah switched on the lights, revealing walls covered with basketball posters. LeBron James seemed to watch over their apartment from every angle. "Remember, Mrs. Johnson needs her driveway clear by 6 if you're practicing outside." Marcus nodded, his dark curls bouncing as he moved. "Already texted her last night. She said she's got a late start today, so I can use it until 6:30. Sarah smiled, pride warming her chest. Her son was growing into such a thoughtful young man, just like his father had been. Her eyes drifted to the photo on the bookshelf. Marcus Sr. in his college basketball uniform, holding a tiny Marcus in his arms. 5 years gone, but the ache still felt fresh some mornings. In the kitchen, Sarah started her morning dance. Coffee maker on, lunch containers out, breakfast prep in motion. Her waitressing uniform hung pressed and ready on the bathroom door. The morning shift at Mel's Diner started at 7, but her regular customers began showing up at 6:30. Those early bird regulars and their tips helped keep the lights on. "Mom," Marcus called out, "did you see the letter Coach Thompson sent?" Sarah's hands paused over the sandwich she was making. "What letter?" Marcus jogged to his backpack, pulling out a creased paper. "The team made it to the Western Regionals in Los Angeles." His eyes sparkled with excitement. "Coach says there might even be college scouts there." Sarah's heart did a little flip, part joy, part panic. Los Angeles meant plane tickets, hotel rooms, tournament fees. Her mind started calculating costs before she could stop herself. The rent was due next week, and Marcus's growing feet needed new basketball shoes again. The ones he had were held together with duct tape and prayer, but she plastered on a smile. "That's amazing, baby. When is it?" 2 months from now. Coach says we need to confirm by next week if we're going." Marcus's voice held a note of hesitation. He was old enough now to understand what that meant. Sarah turned back to the lunches, hiding the worry in her eyes. "Well, then we've got 2 months to figure it out, don't we?" She closed up the sandwich containers with more force than necessary. "Now go get ready for school. You've got that math test first period." While Marcus showered, Sarah pulled out her tip notebook. She'd started keeping track of every dollar years ago when Marcus Sr. first got sick. The margins were filled with calculations and budgets, each page a roadmap of survival. She flipped to a fresh page and wrote LA Tournament at the top. Tournament fee, 500 plane tickets, $800, estimate. Hotel, $600, estimate. Food, transportation, $400. The total made her stomach clench. Even with her 3 jobs, waitressing at Mel's, cleaning offices in the afternoon, and working retail at Target on weekends, this would be tight, maybe impossible. The shower stopped running, and Sarah quickly tucked the notebook away. Through the thin walls, she could hear Marcus singing some pop song his voice cracking on the high notes. The sound made her smile, despite everything. That boy had his daddy's joy, even if he couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. Sarah checked her phone. 5:45 a.m. Right on schedule. She pulled on her white waitress uniform, the fabric softened by hundreds of washes. Her name tag read, Sarah M. In faded letters, the gold plate scratched from years of use. Marcus emerged from the bathroom dressed for school, his wet hair already starting to curl. He grabbed his basketball and backpack, then paused by the kitchen counter. "Mom, we don't have to do the LA thing. I know it's a lot." Sarah crossed the small space between them and pulled him into a hug. When did he get so tall? Just yesterday she was picking him up from kindergarten, and now her baby boy was almost eye level with her. "Listen to me, Marcus Martinez," she said, holding his shoulders. "Your job is to play basketball and keep those grades up. My job is to handle everything else. That's the deal, remember?" He nodded, but his eyes fell on the bills peeking out from her purse. Sarah turned his face back to hers. "Hey, you've got your daddy's talent and your mama's determination. That's an unbeatable combination." The morning sun was just starting to peek through their kitchen window as they headed out. Marcus would catch the early bus to school, getting there in time for some practice shots before first period. Sarah would walk the 6 blocks to Mel's, mentally preparing for another 12-hour workday. At the bus stop, Marcus gave her another quick hug. "Love you, Mom." "Love you more, baby." She watched him board the bus, his basketball tucked under, his arm like always. As the bus pulled away, Sarah allowed herself one moment of worry. Just one. Then she straightened her shoulders and started walking toward Mel's. The morning rush would start soon, and her regular customers didn't tip for tears. But with each step, her mind worked on the problem. Maybe she could pick up some extra shifts at Target, or see if any of the offices she cleaned needed weekend help. There was that new coffee shop opening downtown. They might need morning help. The LA tournament numbers loomed in her mind, but Sarah pushed them aside. She'd figure it out. She always did. Because that's what mothers do. They find a way. And Sarah Martinez had been finding ways since the day Marcus was born. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Made 50 free throws before the bus came." "New record," Sarah smiled, her steps getting lighter despite her exhaustion. 2 months to find a way to Los Angeles. Challenge accepted. As she approached Mel's diner, she could see Old Joe's truck already in the parking lot. The retired mechanic was always her first customer, ordering the same breakfast for the past 6 years. 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, and coffee black as motor oil. He'd tip exactly $5, like clockwork. Sarah touched the locket around her neck, the one Marcus Sr. had given her when they were just teenagers with big dreams. "Help me find a way," she whispered to the morning air. Then she pulled open the diner's door, the familiar bell chiming overhead. Time to get to work. LA wasn't going to pay for itself. "Morning, Sarah," Old Joe called out as she entered, his newspaper spread across the counter. "You're looking tired this morning, honey." Sarah tied her apron around her waist, managing a smile. "Nothing coffee can't fix, Joe." "The usual?" He nodded, folding his paper to the sports section. "Hey, did you see this? LeBron James is coming to town next week. Some kind of charity thing at the community center." Sarah's hands paused as she poured his coffee. LeBron was Marcus's hero, had been since he was old enough to hold a basketball. But the event would probably be expensive, and with the LA tournament looming, seems like they're keeping it pretty quiet, Joe continued, trying to avoid too big a crowd. But word is, he's going to work with some local kids. Before Sarah could respond, the morning rush began. The bell above the door chimed constantly as regulars filed in. Construction workers grabbing breakfast before their shift, office folks stopping for coffee, teachers from the high school down the street. Sarah moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her order pad filling with notes, her mind adding up tips with each signature. By 11, her feet were already aching. But there was no time to rest. She had exactly 45 minutes. to change and get to her next job at Anderson Financial, where she cleaned offices until 5. Then it was straight to Target for the evening shift. As she gathered her things from her locker, Mel, the diner's owner, stopped her. "Sarah, honey, you've got a call. Says it's from Marcus's school." Her heart dropped. Marcus never got in trouble, but still. She picked up the phone in Mel's office, her fingers crossed. "Mrs. Martinez?" It was Coach Thompson. "Sorry to catch you at work, but I wanted to talk about the LA tournament." Sarah sank into Mel's chair. "Is everything okay?" "More than okay. Marcus was incredible at practice yesterday. I've been coaching for 20 years, and I'm telling you, that boy has something special. The tournament scouts need to see him play." Sarah closed her eyes. "Coach, I'm working on the money, but that's why I'm calling. The team parents are organizing a fundraiser. Car wash, bake sale, the works. I know you're proud, Sarah, but let us help. This could be Marcus's shot." Her throat tightened. "I appreciate that, Coach, but just think about it," he said gently. "Marcus is family to this team, and family helps family." The conversation stayed with her as she rushed to Anderson Financial, changing into her cleaning uniform in the building's bathroom. As she pushed her cart between offices, she could hear snippets of business meetings, phone calls, success happening all around her. Sometimes she imagined Marcus in one of these offices someday, his basketball trophies displayed proudly on a desk. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "1-hour scrimmage. Coach says I'm starting in Friday's game. Can you come?" Sarah paused her vacuuming, looking at her schedule. If she switched shifts with Carmen at Target. But no, Carmen had already covered for her twice this month. "I'll try my best, baby. So proud of you." She texted back, hoping her disappointment didn't show through the message. As she cleaned the break room, she overheard 2 employees talking about LeBron's visit. "My cousin works at the community center," one said. "Says they're picking local kids to practice with him. Something about finding hidden talent in small towns." Sarah's hand tightened on her cleaning spray. Marcus was as talented as any kid in town. But you couldn't eat talent, couldn't pay rent with potential. The afternoon passed in a blur of vacuum noise and cleaning solutions. By the time she reached Target at 5:30, her back was screaming. But she plastered on her retail smile and took her place at the register. "Martinez," her supervisor called out. "Can you stay until close? Jenny called in sick." Sarah's feet throbbed at the thought, but extra hours meant extra money. "Sure, no problem." As she rang up customers, she kept a mental tally. Regular shift plus 3 extra hours, minus bus fare. If she did this twice a week for 8 weeks, a young boy came through her line wearing Lakers jerseys, the same kind Marcus had been eyeing. His mother paid with a credit card, not even glancing at the price. "My son's going to basketball camp this summer," the woman mentioned casually, helping her boy bag the jerseys. "It's so expensive, but you have to invest in their dreams, right?" Sarah nodded, swallowing hard. "Right." The store finally closed at 11:30. Sarah's legs shook as she waited for the bus, her body running on nothing but determination and gas station coffee. She checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Marcus. She called him back immediately, worry pushing through her exhaustion. He picked up on the first ring. "Mom, I've been trying to reach you. You're never gonna believe what happened at practice," sighed. His excitement brought a tired smile to her face. "Tell me everything, baby. Coach had us run this new play he created, right? And I did this behind-the-back pass that even surprised me. And then..." He paused. "Mom? Are you still there?" Sarah realized. She'd closed her eyes. "I'm here, just resting my eyes while I listen. Keep going." "You should go to bed, Mom. I can tell you tomorrow." No, I want to hear it now. Tell me about this amazing pass." As Marcus described every detail of practice, Sarah let his voice wash over her. The bus bumped along empty streets, and she thought about Coach Thompson's offer. about the Lakers jersey mom's words, about investing in dreams. The apartment was dark when she finally got home, well past midnight. She found Marcus, asleep on the couch, his math textbook open on his chest, waiting up for her again. A plate of microwave pizza sat on the coffee table, his attempt at dinner. Sarah covered him with a blanket, kissing his forehead, like she used to when he was little. On the table next to his pizza, she noticed a crumpled paper. Smoothing it out, she read, "Dear Mr. James, my name is Marcus Martinez Jr. I'm 14, and my mom is the hardest working person in the world." Sarah's vision blurred. She carefully folded the letter and slipped it into her pocket. Even half asleep, she could do the math. Her current jobs plus the extra target hours still wouldn't be enough for LA. Not even close. She sank into the armchair, her body heavy with exhaustion. The special teams dinner was tomorrow, the one where they'd discuss tournament details. She needed to be there, needed to show Marcus she supported him. But her target shift. Her phone lit up with a text from Carmen. "I can cover your shift tomorrow if you still need it. Pay me back whenever." Sarah stared at the message, tears threatening. Maybe Coach Thompson was right. Maybe it was time to let people help. Maybe... Her eyes drifted shut, the unfinished thought floating away. In her dreams, Marcus soared across a basketball court, his father's number on his back, his future as bright as stadium lights. The alarm would ring again in 3 hours. But for now, Sarah Martinez slept, her son's letter in her pocket, and the first hint of a plan forming in theaters, her tired mind. Sarah jolted awake to Marcus shaking her shoulder. Sunlight streamed through the windows, bright morning sunlight. "Mom, your alarm's been going off for an hour." She shot up from the armchair, her neck cramping from the awkward position. "What time is it?" "Almost 8. Marcus stood there in his practice clothes, worry creasing his young face. "I called Mel and told him you were sick. He said to take the morning off." "You did what?" Sarah grabbed her phone. 5 missed calls from work and 1 text from Mel. "Feel better, Sarah. See you tomorrow." Her head spun as she stood up too quickly. This had never happened before. Not once in 6 years had she slept through her alarm. The room tilted sideways, and Marcus caught her arm. "Mom, you need to rest. You barely slept 3 hours." But Sarah was already heading for the bathroom. "I can't lose these hours, baby. We need..." The room spun again, and she gripped the doorframe. "Need what?" "Money for LA?" Marcus's voice cracked. "I heard you counting tips in your sleep last night. You kept mumbling numbers." Sarah turned to look at her son. Really, look at him. His shoulders were tense, his usual smile replaced by a worried frown that made him look too old for 14. And his shoes. The duct tape was peeling off the sides, the soles worn paper-thin. "I'm fine," she insisted, but even she could hear how weak her voice sounded. "Just give me 5 minutes to get ready." "No." Marcus planted himself in front of the bathroom door. "You're not fine, and I'm not going to practice today." "Marcus, I mean it, Mom. I'll quit the team. For real." His eyes shone with tears. "It's not worth watching you kill yourself." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She sank down onto the closed toilet lid, her legs too shaky to hold her up anymore. "Basketball is your dream." Marcus knelt in front of her. "You're my mom. That matters more." They sat in silence for a moment, the morning sun casting long shadows across the bathroom floor. Sarah touched the letter in her pocket, the one she'd found last night. Her son was willing to give up his dream for her, just like she'd been willing to work herself into the ground for his. Maybe they were both wrong. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, I'll rest today, but you're going to practice." "Mom," "No arguments. I'm going to call Carmen, see if she can cover my target shift. Then I'm going to sleep in a real bed, not this chair." She managed a small smile. "And tonight, we're going to that team dinner. and listening to what Coach Thompson has to say about fundraising. Marcus's eyes widened. Really? But I said we'd handle it ourselves. And we tried. Sarah touched his cheek. Sometimes being strong means knowing when to accept help. After Marcus left for practice, extracting multiple promises that she would actually rest, Sarah called Carmen, then Mel to apologize. Both were more worried than angry. "You work harder than anyone I know," Mel said. "Take the day. The diner won't fall apart without you." She slept until afternoon, waking up to the unfamiliar sensation of feeling rested. Her phone showed several messages from her cleaning supervisor at Anderson Financial, but also one from an unknown number. "Sarah, it's Coach Thompson. Marcus told me you're coming tonight. Dinner's at 6 at the community center. Don't worry about bringing anything except yourselves." As she got ready for the dinner, Sarah noticed things she'd been too tired to see lately. Marcus's practice jersey needed mending. The calendar on the fridge was covered in games and practices she'd missed. And stuck to the corner of Marcus's basketball poster was a small photo booth strip. Marcus and his dad making silly faces, taken just months before the cancer diagnosis. She touched the photo gently. "I'm trying," she whispered, "but I might need some help." The community center was buzzing when they arrived. Parents clustered in groups, talking excitedly about something Sarah couldn't quite hear. Marcus immediately joined his teammates, who were showing off new moves near the basketball hoop. "Sarah!" Coach Thompson's wife, Emma, hurried over. "Perfect timing. We're just about to start." The cafeteria had been transformed with basketball-themed decorations. A large poster board displayed "Road to LA" in bright letters, with smaller cards underneath showing different fundraising ideas. "Before we discuss the tournament," Coach Thompson began once everyone was seated, "I have some news. As some of you might have heard, LeBron James is visiting next week." The room erupted in excited whispers. Marcus grabbed Sarah's hand under the table. "Thanks to some connections," Coach continued, "our team has been selected for a special training session. 1 hour, just our boys and King James himself." The room exploded. Kids were jumping up, parents were hugging. Marcus sat frozen, his eyes huge. But Sarah barely heard the celebration. Her vision had gone spotty, the room spinning just like this morning. She tried to stand up, to get some air, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. The last thing she heard was Marcus shouting, "Mom!" before everything went black. She came to on the community center's couch, a cool cloth on her forehead. The school nurse, Mrs. Chen, sat beside her, checking her pulse. "Blood pressure's too low," Mrs. Chen was saying to someone. "And when's the last time you ate a real meal, Sarah?" Sarah tried to sit up, but gentle hands pushed her back down. Coach Thompson's concerned face came into view. "Marcus is right outside. He's pretty scared." "I'm fine," Sarah tried to say, but her voice came out weak. "Just excited about the news?" Mrs. Chen made a disapproving sound. "You're exhausted and malnourished. Your body's sending you warning signals loud and clear." Sarah closed her eyes. Against sudden tears, everything was falling apart. The one time things were looking up for Marcus, a chance to meet his hero, to play in LA, and she couldn't even stay conscious. "Let us help," Coach Thompson said quietly. "The whole team wants to, not just with LA, but with everything. We take care of our own here." Sarah wanted to argue, to insist she could handle it, but she thought of Marcus's face this morning, of his offer to quit the team, of his letter to LeBron, crumpled in her pocket. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." When Marcus was allowed in, he ran straight to her, looking as scared as he had when his dad first got sick. Sarah pulled him close, breathing in the familiar smell of gym shoes and teenage boy. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm going to do better." "We're going to do better," he corrected. "Together." Outside the community center window, the sun was setting. Sarah could see parents organizing carpools, making plans, working together. Maybe that was the real lesson here, that sometimes the strongest thing a mother could do was let her child see her accept help. She thought of Marcus's letter again, still unfinished in her pocket. Maybe it was time to let him send it. After all, they had nothing left to lose, and everything to gain. That night, after Marcus had fallen asleep, Sarah pulled out his crumpled letter. Smoothing it on the kitchen table, she read it again under the dim light. Dear Mr. James, my name is Marcus Martinez Jr. I'm 14, and my mom is the hardest working person in the world. She works 3 jobs to keep my basketball dream alive. Sometimes I hear her counting money late at night, thinking I'm asleep. She misses my games because she's working, but she never complains. Dad used to say, I got his jump shot and Mom's heart. He died when I was 9, but I remember him teaching me to dribble in our driveway. Mom kept his basketball shoes in a box under her bed. Sometimes I see her looking at them when she thinks I'm not watching. I'm writing because the letter stopped. There, unfinished. Sarah wiped her eyes, remembering Marcus Sr. teaching their son to dribble. He'd been so patient, getting down on his knees to show 3-year-old Marcus how to bounce the ball just right. She went to her bedroom and pulled out the shoebox. Inside were Marcus Sr.'s old high-top sneakers, still perfectly clean. He'd worn them in his last college game just before they found out about the cancer. A folded paper fell from between the shoes, an old newspaper clipping about Marcus Sr.'s college team. The headline read, Local Star Leads Team to Championship. In the photo, he was mid-jump shot, looking so much like their son, it made Sarah's chest hurt. She carried the clipping back to the kitchen and placed it next to Marcus's letter. Like father, like son, both with dreams bigger than their circumstances. The next morning, Sarah woke up to find Marcus already at the kitchen table, pencil in hand. I'm finishing it, he said, not looking up. The letter to LeBron. Sarah set a glass of orange juice next to him. Can I help? He nodded, pushing the paper toward her. Together, they read what he'd added. I'm writing because our team made it to the Western Regionals in Los Angeles. Coach says there might be college scouts there. But Mom's already working so hard, and I know the trip costs more than we have. She won't tell me how much, but I see her worried face when she thinks I'm not looking. I'm not asking for money. That's not why I'm writing. I just want you to know about my mom, about how she never gave up on me, even when things got really hard. She's my MVP, even though she says that title belongs to you. Maybe someday I'll play in the NBA like you. But even if I don't, I want to make my mom proud, like you made your mom proud. She deserves that much. Sincerely, Marcus Martinez Jr. Sarah's vision blurred. It's perfect, baby. Really? Marcus looked uncertain. You don't think it's too much? It's exactly enough. She squeezed his shoulder. But you know LeBron probably gets thousands of letters. I know. Marcus folded the letter carefully. But Dad always said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Sarah laughed through her tears. Wayne Gretzky said that, not your father. Dad said it too, Marcus insisted with a grin. He just borrowed it. At practice that afternoon, Coach Thompson gathered the team to discuss the upcoming session with LeBron. Sarah sat in the bleachers, actually able to watch for once since she'd taken another sick day from the diner. Next Tuesday, 2 o'clock sharp, Coach announced. Everyone needs a signed permission slip and a parent present. Sarah's heart sank. Tuesday at 2, right in the middle of her shift at Anderson Financial. As if reading her mind, Emma Thompson appeared beside her. I already talked to your supervisor, Emma said quietly. Told her it was a school emergency. She said to take the whole day. Sarah started to protest, but Emma held up her hand. Sarah Martinez, you are going to watch your son play basketball with LeBron James if I have to drag you there myself. On the court, Marcus was practicing free throws. His form was perfect, just like his father's had been. Each shot swooshed through the net with barely a ripple. The scouts who are coming to L.A., Coach Thompson called out from his spot near Sarah. They're from UCLA, Marcus Sr.'s old team. Sarah's hand flew to her locket. UCLA had been Marcus Sr.'s dream school. He'd played there for 2 years before getting sick, before they had to move back home for treatment. They remembered the Martinez name, Coach continued. They've heard about Marcus. This tournament could be his shot. Practice ended with Coach running drills about staying calm under pressure. LeBron James is just a person, he told the boys. A very tall, very famous person, but still just a person. Remember that next week. As they walked home, Marcus was quieter than usual. "What's wrong, baby?" Sarah asked. "What if—" He scuffed his worn-out shoe against the sidewalk. "What if I mess up in front of LeBron? What if I'm not good enough? For UCLA?" Sarah stopped walking. "Look at me, Marcus Martinez Jr." He turned, looking so much like his father in that moment that it took her breath away. "You are already good enough. You hear me? Whether you make every shot or miss them all, you are good enough. Your father knew it the first time he put a basketball in your hands. I know it every time I watch you play." Marcus hugged her tight, right there on the sidewalk. "Thanks, Mom." That night, Sarah drove to the post office after her Target shift. Marcus's letter felt heavy in her hand as she stood in line. The woman behind the counter smiled as she waited. "Priority mail?" she asked. Sarah thought of her empty bank account, of the LA tournament costs still looming, but she also thought of Marcus Sr. saying, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." "Yes," she said. Priority mail. When she got home, Marcus was asleep on the couch again, ESPN playing quietly on TV. On the screen, LeBron James was being interviewed about his upcoming charity tour. "It's about giving back," he was saying. "About finding those kids who just need one chance, one person to believe in them." Sarah covered Marcus with a blanket, just like she did every night. His basketball shoes sat by the door, the duct tape barely holding them together now. "Someone already believes in him," she whispered to the quiet room. "Someone always has." She fell asleep that night dreaming of Marcus Sr. teaching their son to dribble, of UCLA scouts watching Marcus play, of LeBron James reading a letter from a boy who just wanted to make his mom proud. Sometimes the biggest dreams start with the smallest things, like a crumpled letter and a mother's love. And sometimes, if you're lucky, those dreams find their way to exactly the right people. The weekend before LeBron's visit, Sarah arrived at Mel's Diner to find the parking lot full of cars, buckets, and teenagers in basketball jerseys. "Surprise!" Marcus called out, holding up a sudsy sponge. "The team decided to start our fundraising here." The entire basketball team had set up a car wash in the diner's parking lot. Parents manned donation tables, and a huge sign read, "Help send our boys to LA." Someone had drawn a pretty good cartoon of Marcus, dunking a basketball in the corner. You know about this?" Sarah asked Mel, who was grinning in the doorway. "Might have suggested the location," he said with a wink. "Your regular customers have been asking how they could help. Turns out, quite a few of them have dirty cars." As all, if on cue, old Joe's truck pulled into the lot, much dirtier than usual. "Well, would you look at that?" he said, climbing out. "My truck sure could use a wash. Might take 2 or 3 tries to get it clean." Sarah watched as Marcus and his teammates attacked the truck with sponges, laughing and spraying each other as much as the vehicles. She hadn't seen him this happy in weeks. Inside the diner, her regular customers kept pressing extra bills into her hands. "For the LA Fund," they'd say with a smile, waving away her protests. During her break, she sat with Emma Thompson, watching the boys work through a steady stream of cars. "The other parents want to help with Marcus's equipment too," Emma said carefully. "We noticed his shoes." Sarah's pride flared up automatically, but she thought of her promise to accept help. "That's very kind," she managed. "We're also organizing a bake sale next week," Emma continued, "and the school principal approved a spirit week where kids can now pay to wear basketball jerseys instead of uniforms." Sarah's throat tightened. "I don't know what to say." "Say nothing. Just watch." Emma pointed to where Marcus was teaching Tommy, the team's youngest player, how to properly dry a car window. That's your boy out there, being a leader, being his father's son. By lunchtime, the team had washed 37 cars. Parents kept a running tally on a whiteboard, updating the total after each donation. The numbers were adding up faster than Sarah could have dreamed. Her co-worker Jenny appeared with a coffee pot. Table 6 wants to know if Marcus can spare a minute. Says he's an old friend of his dad's. Sarah followed Marcus to table 6, where an elderly man sat reading the sports section. He looked up with kind eyes. "You probably don't remember me," he said to Marcus, "but I coached your dad in middle school. Saw your team's fundraiser outside and had to come in." Marcus sat down, eyes wide. "You coached my dad?" "Sure did. He had the sweetest jump shot I'd ever seen." The man pulled out his wallet. "I've been following your games in the paper. You've got his talent, son." He handed Marcus a check. Sarah glimpsed the amount and gasped. "For L.A., the man said simply. "Your daddy would be proud." The car wash continued all day. Sarah's feet ached from her shifts, but she couldn't stop smiling. Every time she looked outside, she saw another small miracle. Parents sharing stories about Marcus Sr., teammates working together, strangers driving in just to donate. During the afternoon lull, Coach Thompson gathered everyone for a quick meeting. "Thanks to today's efforts and some very generous community members, we're halfway to our LA goal. And it's only been one day." The team cheered. Marcus hugged Sarah so hard he lifted her off her feet. "One more thing," Coach continued. "I just got a call about Tuesday's session with LeBron. Seems they need some local kids for a photo op beforehand. They asked specifically for Marcus." Sarah's hand found her locket. "Why Marcus?" Coach shrugged, but there was something in his smile she couldn't quite read. "Just lucky, I guess." That evening, as they were cleaning up, Sarah's phone rang with an unknown number. She answered, expecting another parent about the fundraiser. "Mrs. Martinez? This is Robert from the James Family Foundation." Sarah's knees went weak. She gripped the counter for support. "We received your son's letter," Robert continued. "LeBron was very moved by it. He'd like to meet with Marcus privately before Tuesday's session, if that's possible." The room spun, but this time not from exhaustion. The letter actually reached him? It did. "And Mrs. Martinez? He'd like to meet you, too." After she hung up, Sarah sat in her car for a long time, watching the sunset paint the diner's windows gold. Through the glass, she could see Marcus helping Mel sweep up, still wearing his soap-splashed jersey. She thought about the day's events, old Joe's suspiciously dirty truck, the coach from Marcus Sr.'s past, the lucky photo op selection, and, now, this call. Maybe some dreams really did find their way to the right people. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carmen at Target. "Check your schedule. We all switched shifts so you can have Tuesday off. No arguments." Sarah smiled through her tears. She'd spent so long trying to carry everything alone. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be carried by others. Inside the diner, Marcus was telling Mel about the day's events, his hands moving excitedly as he described each car they'd washed. He looked so much like his father in that moment, all joy and determination and pure love for the game. Sarah touched her locket one more time, then went inside to tell her son about the phone call that would change everything. Sometimes the EBB biggest dreams need a whole community to catch them. And sometimes, just sometimes, they write back. Tuesday morning dawned bright and clear. Sarah had barely slept, but for once, it wasn't from exhaustion. Her stomach did flips as she helped Marcus pick out his clothes for the 10th time. "Mom, it's fine," he laughed, holding up his newest jersey, a gift from the team parents. "LeBron's not going to care what I'm wearing." LeBron James, Sarah corrected. "Use his full name and stand up straight when you meet him. And remember to, Mom." Marcus grabbed her shoulders. "Breathe. Coach said he's just a person, remember?" Sarah smiled, straightening his collar. "A very tall, very famous person." They arrived at the community center an hour early, The parking lot was already filling up with news vans and people setting up equipment. A security guard checked their names against a list and gave them special passes to wear. Mrs. Martinez? A young woman with a clipboard approached them. I'm Jen from the foundation. We'd like to get Marcus ready for his private meeting first, if that's okay. Sarah watched as they led Marcus down a hallway. His new shoes, another team parent gift, squeaking against the floor. Her own meeting with LeBron would come later, after the team practice. She found a seat in the gym, which was rapidly filling, with parents and local media. Emma Thompson sat down beside her, squeezing her hand. Did you ever imagine this when Marcus first picked up a basketball? Emma asked. Sarah thought back to those early days, Marcus Sr. teaching their toddler to dribble. I imagined him being happy. That was enough. The gym buzzed with excitement as Marcus's teammates arrived. They were all wearing new jerseys too, Sarah noticed. The whole team looked sharp, professional, ready for their big moment. But where was Marcus? He'd been gone for almost an hour. Coach Thompson gathered the boys for a pre-practice pep talk. Parents readied their phones for pictures. Sarah checked her watch again. Suddenly, the gym doors opened. A hush fell over the crowd. LeBron James walked in, ducking slightly through the doorway. He was even taller in person, his presence filling the entire gym. But Sarah barely noticed him, because right beside him, grinning from ear to ear, was Marcus. They were deep in conversation, LeBron gesturing as he explained something, while Marcus nodded eagerly. They looked like they'd been talking for hours, completely comfortable with each other. Mom, Marcus called out, waving. Come here. You've got to hear this. Sarah's legs felt like jelly as she walked across the gym. LeBron James. The LeBron. James turned to her with a warm smile. Mrs. Martinez, he said, extending his hand. Your son's been telling me all about you. 3 jobs, huh? That's some serious dedication. Sarah could only nod, her voice stuck somewhere in her throat. You know, LeBron continued, my mom worked multiple jobs too when I was growing up, doing whatever it took to keep my dreams alive. He looked at Marcus. That's why your letter hit home, young man. Reminded me of where I came from. The team gathered around them, eyes wide with awe. Coach Thompson tried to herd them into formation, but LeBron waved him off. Before we start practice, LeBron announced, his voice carrying across the gym, I want to tell you all a story. It's about a letter I received, written by a young man who cares more about his mom than about himself. Sarah felt Marcus's hand slip into hers as LeBron continued. This young man's team qualified for a tournament in LA, a tournament where UCLA scouts will be watching. He paused, looking directly at Marcus. The same UCLA where his father played before he passed away. The gym was completely silent now. Sarah could feel every eye on them. But this young man didn't write to ask for help getting to LA. He wrote to tell me about his mom, about how she works 3 jobs, misses sleep, misses games, but never misses a chance to support his dreams. Sarah's vision blurred with tears. Marcus squeezed her hand tighter. That's why I'm here today, LeBron said. Not just to practice basketball, though we're definitely going to do that. He grinned at the team. I'm here because sometimes we need to be reminded what real MVPs look like. He reached into his jacket and pulled out Marcus's letter. The same crumpled paper Sarah had found in the trash, now carefully smoothed out. They look like Sarah Martinez, LeBron declared, and that's why the James Family Foundation isn't just going to help send this team to LA. We're going to make sure this MVP mom never has to miss another game. The gym erupted in cheers. Sarah felt her knees give way, but strong arms caught her. Marcus on one side, LeBron himself on the other. We're covering the tournament expenses for the whole team, LeBron told her quietly. And we've arranged for you to reduce your hours at work. The foundation will make up the difference for a year, giving you time to find a better situation. Sarah couldn't speak. All those nights counting tips, all those missed games, all those worried calculations, solved by a letter her son had been afraid to send. "There's one more thing," LeBron said, nodding toward the gym doors. They opened to reveal a man Sarah recognized instantly, UCLA's head basketball coach. "I hear there's some Martinez magic in this gym," the coach called out. "Thought I'd come. See it for myself." Marcus's hand tightened on Sarah's arm. This was it. His shot. Their dream. Everything they'd worked for. "Ready to show them what you've got?" LeBron asked Marcus. Marcus looked at Sarah, his eyes shining. "Only if you're watching, Mom." "I'm watching, baby." Sarah touched her locket, feeling Marcus Sr.'s presence stronger than ever. "I'm not missing this one." LeBron blew his whistle, and practice began. But this wasn't just any practice. This was the day dreams wrote back. 3 months later, Sarah sat in the stands of a gleaming Los Angeles gymnasium, watching Marcus warm up with his teammates. The UCLA tournament was about to begin, and the bleachers were packed with scouts, parents, and basketball fans. "Nervous?" Emma Thompson asked, settling in beside her. Sarah shook her head, smiling. "Proud. So much had changed since that day in their community center. Thanks to the James Family Foundation, Sarah now worked just one job: managing the newly renovated community center's youth programs. The position came with flexible hours, allowing her to attend every single one of Marcus's games. On the court below, Marcus was practicing three-pointers with a confidence she'd never seen before. His new shoes, proper basketball shoes this time, squeaked against the polished floor as he moved. "Remember his first practice after meeting LeBron?" Emma asked, watching Marcus sink shot after shot. Sarah remembered it like it was yesterday. LeBron had worked with each player individually, but he'd spent extra time with Marcus, teaching him tricks and techniques that Marcus Sr. used to use. "Your dad played with this same style," LeBron had said, demonstrating a particular move. "I watched his UCLA games when I was younger. Man had skills." Now, watching Marcus practice those same moves, Sarah could see her husband's influence in every dribble, every shot. But there was something else too, something uniquely Marcus, a joy in the game that was all his own. Coach Thompson gathered the team for a pre-game huddle. Sarah noticed he was wearing his lucky tie, the one with tiny basketballs all over it. The whole community had pitched in to help the team get here, and many had made the trip to LA to show their support. Old Joe from the diner was there, sitting, with Mel and some other regulars who'd closed the diner for the weekend to attend. Even Mrs. Johnson, their elderly neighbor who'd let Marcus practice in her driveway all those years, had made the journey. But the biggest surprise had come just before they left for LA. The mysterious diner customer, the one who'd helped get Marcus's letter to LeBron, finally revealed himself. It turned out he was Dave Wilson, a former NBA player who'd been quietly watching Marcus play for months. "I played against your husband in college," he told Sarah. "When I saw his son had the same talent, I had to help. Sometimes the right dreams just need a little push in the right direction." Now Dave sat with the UCLA coach, both of them watching Marcus intently. Sarah touched her locket, sending a silent thank you to everyone who'd helped them reach this moment. The referee's whistle blew, signaling the start of the game. As Marcus took his position on the court, he looked up at Sarah and grinned, the same bright smile he'd had as a toddler, taking his first wobbly shots at their old driveway hoop. The game was intense from the start. Marcus's team faced tough competition, but all those practice sessions with LeBron had prepared them well. They moved like a single unit, supporting each other, finding openings, never giving up. In the final quarter, with just 2 minutes left and the score tied, Marcus got the ball. Time seemed to slow down as he dribbled, looking for an opening. Sarah held her breath. Then Marcus did something that made the whole gym gasp. It was the move LeBron had taught him, the one his father used to use, a fake left, a spin right, and suddenly he was airborne, the ball leaving his hands in a perfect arc. The gym went silent. The ball sailed through the air, turning once, twice. Swish. The crowd erupted. Marcus's teammates mobbed him as the final buzzer sounded. They'd won their first tournament game. But Sarah wasn't watching the celebration. She was watching her son scan the crowd until he found her face. When their eyes met, she saw everything. In his smile, pride, joy, gratitude, and love. After the game, as families and scouts crowded around the team, the UCLA coach approached them. "That last shot," he said to Marcus, "I haven't seen anyone pull that off since your father played for us." He handed Sarah his card. "We should talk about Marcus's future." Later that night, in their hotel room, Sarah found Marcus sitting quietly by the window, looking out at the LA lights. "You okay, baby?" she asked. "I was just thinking about Dad," he said. "About how he never got to finish his UCLA dream. Do you think he'd be okay with me finishing it for him?" Sarah sat beside him, pulling out the old newspaper clipping she always carried, the one with Marcus Sr. making his famous shot. "Your father's dream wasn't just about basketball," she said softly. "It was about doing what you love, with people who love you. You're already living his dream, baby, and adding some of your own." Marcus hugged her tight. "Thanks, Mom, for everything." The next morning, before their second tournament game, Sarah received a text from LeBron. "How's our MVP mom doing?" She looked around the gym at all the familiar faces who'd come to support them. At Coach Thompson, adjusting his lucky tie. At Dave Wilson, chatting with the UCLA coach. At Marcus, confidently leading his team through warm-ups. "Living the dream," she texted back. "All of them. Because sometimes the biggest dreams aren't about basketball at all. Sometimes they're about a mother and son, supporting each other through tough times, about a community coming together to lift up one of their own, about a letter that found its way to the right hands. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, those dreams become something even bigger than you imagined. They become your life." And that's a wrap on our story, fam. Where are you all tuning in from? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing which courts and communities this story is reaching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. For another inspiring story that will move you just as much, click the video appearing on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.